Hello, my name is Jeffrey Martin, and I'm doing an interesting thing today. I'm going to do my own research on some issues that affect our communities all over Southern California. I'm a supporter of Luis Rodriguez, so that's really what prompted this little research that I'm going to do as far as poisoning the communities that we live in. I grew up in Carson, California, and one of the reasons that I support Luis Rodriguez is he's willing and able to touch on some topics that a lot of people don't touch on. And one of them is emissions. And by having grown up in Carson, I live right across from a factory that so we just got off the freeway. We're getting ready to turn left on Avalon Boulevard. But I grew up in Carson I moved there, my family moved there in the late 60s, 68, 69, I'm not sure exactly what year. But we lived close to this factory. And I was reading this book called Sacrifice Zones. This is what prompted all of this. I was reading this book called Sacrifice Zones by Steve Lerner. And I started thinking about some of the health issues within my own family. My stepfather died in 1987 of a brain tumor. And I'm not saying, let me make the disclaimer first. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a research person. I don't get paid to research. I'm doing this on my own. I'm just a concerned individual who just has some questions about what's happening in Carson and many areas in Southern California as far as refineries go. But anyway, I read this book, or I was reading this book, Sacrifice Zones, and how these refineries all over the United States are put in predominantly poor and people of color communities. And a lot of this is not, we're talking about, like, fracking is the big thing right now, which is very important. But we don't talk about the emissions, or you don't hear that much about the emissions in California. So, and in this book, he mentions, one of the cities he mentions is Carson, California, which is interesting. He mentions, towards the end of the book, he mentions Carson, California. So that made it even more important. So once I finished the book, I said, I'm just going to do my own. I'm going to go to Carson. I'm going to put it on video, and people can take it however they want to take it, or take it to the next level. Not as a researcher, but just as a concerned individual who lives in Southern California, and how these plants affect the health of people in these communities. So Carson is considered, because people don't like to be called poor. I think America is poor and rich, but it's considered middle class. So it's not, it wouldn't fit in that realm of being a poor community, but it's still really close to a factory. And when I was growing up, there was always a smell in Carson. And we just got used to it as kids. We just got used to it. But I'm going to go up the street. Right now, we're on Del Amo. We're on Del Amo, near the Carson. It used to be called the Carson Mall here. This is, I forget what's the name of that park, but the park has been there for years. But when I moved to Carson in the late 60s, all of it was field. So these are all new homes going up. And what I learned doing some research on the city of Carson is from 1922 until they started building those homes, I think it was Shell Refinery, used this, so that's what, from 1922 to approximately 1966, so that's 44 years or so that they were using this. And then they built these homes on contaminated lands. So I thought that was interesting. It's not in this book, but I did some research on the internet and just kind of, so I wanted to go and I wanted to put it on video. I'm going to go to the street that I grew up on and show you the homes of people who either have passed away from cancer or are recovering from cancer right now. Like I said, my stepfather passed in 1987. But before I get into the other names, I want to actually show you the homes. Now we're coming up, we're getting ready to pass the light. We're passing Tillman. And to the right, you can start seeing the factory starts. The big white containers here, or the refinery starts. I'm not sure what this is, what it's called. I guess it's all connected. But, and over to the left here are the homes. This is on the other side. We're getting ready to pass Central. I lived on the east side of Central, so we're going to go there first. But this is all the stuff that has been here for years. The refinery, and then I'm going to get back to that. But I wanted to show you how close it is in proximity to where we grew up. I don't know. I'm not going to assume, but it just makes me wonder. And I don't know all of the families that have been affected by cancer or different kinds of sicknesses, and if they're even attributable to this refinery. But it just had me thinking, okay, we just got off of Del Amo. We're gonna go on my street. I lived on, so we just got off Del Amo next to the refinery. The street that I'm coming up to right now is Cyrene. I lived on Diamonddale, which is right around the corner from Cyrene. So we're gonna go to that now. As you can see, it's a nice neighborhood. Nice neighborhood as far as it looks nice. So this is Cyrene. Right around the corner from here is the street that I grew up on, which is Diamonddale. Diamonddale Drive. I'm gonna go take you right to the house. Diamonddale Drive right here. This is where I grew up and grew up with most of my friends. Okay, let me give you an idea. The Hendersons lived in this house right here, 1609, if I'm not mistaken, 1609. Mrs. Henderson died 20 years ago of cancer. Is it related? I don't know. Just something to think about. That's Miss Henderson. She passed away. The Holmes lived in this house right here. Darrell Holmes, I know now, has just recovered from throat cancer. I'm not sure if he smoked or not, but just weird. So they're next door. Okay, I'm not sure about the other. I lived here. This is 1618 Diamonddale. This is where I grew up from the age of about 8 until I left the house at 19 or 20. This is where I lived. My stepfather died of a brain tumor, cancerous brain tumor. Is it related? I don't know. But I just think that it's really important. One of the issues that needs to be tackled that I think Luis Rodriguez would tackle, and the only reason I'm supporting him is because he's tackling issues that I think reflect on the broader population. I think, okay, I'm gonna go down a couple of doors down. So this is 1618 Diamonddale. Not this house here, but this house, one house in between mine and here lived, I don't remember their last names. I just remember John and Carol, and they had 3 kids. John passed away. They moved, before I got married and left the home, John and his family moved to Paris, California. But I do know that John suffered from the same tumor, not the same tumor, but he died of a brain tumor a few years after my stepfather, if I'm not mistaken. So just having those stories is interesting to me. So we're gonna go up the street and we're gonna go and check out the get close to this refinery. While reading this book, I thought, wow, I wonder if, now I don't know the rest of the stories here. There are probably, I know my friend Walter's father just passed, but I'm not sure, you know, we're all gonna die. But I'm wondering if any of these are related to, no, let me go up the street. Let me go up the street. Okay, we're still on Diamonddale. You go around Diamonddale and it turns into, I believe, Abbottson. I have a friend named Ronnie Rowland. I'm not sure. I know Ronnie still lives in the house, but both his parents died from Alzheimer's. Is it related? I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a scientist, a doctor, any of that. I'm just wondering if these emissions, I know they have adverse effect. I know that for a fact. All of us know that. We don't have to be scientists to know that. I'm not sure if they're related or not, but I really think that the community and people that live near refineries need to know. Ronnie Rowland's house, and I think he may still have his, no, I don't recall where it is. This is one of these homes here. I know he still lives there, but I know he lost both of his parents to Alzheimer's, which may or may not have anything to do with the refinery. I don't know. I don't want to put everything on the refinery. But I think we definitely should know what's happening. Oh, Augustine, I forget Augustine's last name. I talked to him on Facebook. He's recovered, oh no, he's 6 years in remission from throat cancer. Never smoked a day in his life. Never smoked a day in his life. And when I brought that question up to him, he thought it was interesting, intriguing to say the least. He grew up on this street, I forget what house, but he was in this area too. Augustine grew up with us also. So he thought it was interesting. I wanted to show you, but we're gonna go by the factory now, the refinery now. But at night they would have this fire going on, and as kids I thought it was cool because it would put me to sleep at night. I would open up here's the refinery here. It was shelled at that time. I forget what the name of it is now, but it doesn't matter. It's a refinery. That's the main thing. And the emissions, that's what I'm concerned about. Here's the refinery here, but it kept a constant smell in the community. So people from other communities, from Compton, when my cousin would come from Compton, or from Long Beach, my cousins come from Long Beach. Anybody come from outside of, it's still Shell Pipeline Company. I thought it had been sold to somewhere else. Okay, all this is factories, refineries, I mean. When people would come from other communities to our house or to Carson, it'd be like, they would always complain about the smell. Here's a refinery over here. So we're not that far from it. And it was always, well, in one of these, I don't know if it was this one or not, it always had a yellow flame coming out of it. And for me personally, it would put me to sleep. You know, I'd open up my window, not my window, my shades on my curtains, and I would stare at that until it was, until I went to sleep. So many of us grew up that way in Carson. Carson's not the only community, of course, but it just got me to thinking, is there some relation to, and I'm still doing research, I don't know if it's research, but I'm gonna find out, I'm gonna try to get in touch with more people from Carson via Facebook or however I can get in contact with them and see if there are, I know I've lost friends that I grew up with, but I'm not sure. They had health issues. I just recently lost a friend, but I think he had diabetes or something like that. But I just want to know how many people have been affected by cancer, because one of the things that they found out in Carson was it was uncontaminated land, or it is uncontaminated land for sure. They know that. And benzene, B-E-N-Z-E-N-E, I think that's how you spell it. That's definitely a carcinogen. Definitely. So I just wanted to, just from my own personal knowledge, I want to know if that has any adverse effect on the people here in Carson, because we live so close to this refinery. Like I said, the refinery is here. This is Del Amo. We're right there. So we're very close to whatever this is emitting. We're getting it. Now they didn't have this food place here when I was growing up here, but you know, I left here in 1980, so a lot of things they didn't have. But they've always had this refinery. Well, of course, because it goes back to 1922. So I'm wondering how many, and the people in Carson have, from some of my research, the people in Carson have been fighting this. Oh, another thing too, is that information I just gave you, and you can study it, you can go research it for yourself. They didn't find out, it didn't become public knowledge until 2007 that some of these homes were built on contaminated land. Now, like I said, all of these homes here to the right, and I'm gonna go back to the neighborhood. So here's the refinery right here. We live right here. So, but anyway, all of these homes right in this area for sure. Now, there's another part of Carson that's a little bit older. But these homes here that I'm going to take you by again, these homes were definitely built around the same time that I moved here with my family. The Hendersons might have moved in 6 months before us, or vice versa. The Holmes may have moved in vice versa. You know, it might have been a little bit earlier, a little bit later. But see, all these homes were built around the same time, the late 60s. And like I told you earlier, in 1966 is when Shell, I don't know if they sold this land. I don't know what happened, but anyway. Okay, so this is Cyrene again. So all these homes, this was nothing but land, you know, fields and stuff. They built all these homes right around the same time. Another thing that might be important to do too is the trees. I was reading this little scientific study about how people can study the trees, because a lot of these trees, unless they've been taken up, like these bigger trees here, they planted to make the community kind of cohesive. They had the same kind of trees. Now some of them have been, a lot of them have been taken up. But I'm thinking about the older trees, like say this big tree right here. Okay, that tree probably, in fact, I'm pretty sure, these trees here, I'm pretty sure these trees were planted here when we moved in, because they had them on, they're all little sticks at that time. There's a way that they can study the bark of these trees just to see how much emission is happening in the community. I know that's been done, so I'm wondering if has anyone tested these trees to see how much emissions, or has anybody put any pressure on, because I know Carson residents have been going to city hall meetings and stuff like that. A friend of mine, Alan Strother, told me that they have been making a fuss here at local meetings. So these trees can be tested, as far as I know. Like I said, I'm not a scientist, but I know some bark has been taken from. There are people that study that who can take pieces of the bark and study how much is being affected by whatever is in the community. So all of these homes, this was all these homes are, so what, 1968 till now. So however many years, that's how old these homes are for sure. Now as you go up in the hills back here, those homes are a little bit older, but all of these homes here that you see, these homes, 1960, I'll say 1967 on. They're no older than that. I don't even think they were 67. We moved in 68 or 69. So I'll say 67 at the earliest. So all these homes are 40 years old, 45, almost 50 years old, whatever. So all these homes would be new homes at that particular time. So when they talked about contaminated land, are they talking about this? Because these are fairly new. I'm not sure. But I do know that we're very close to that emissions. We're very close to that refinery. And in reading that book, and he brings up Carson as one of those cities that has a high emissions, or has some emissions problems, I'll put it that way. So that's what got me to thinking about this. So I just wanted to do my own, and like I said, I'm just making a video of it just because somebody else can take it a step further. I'm just making a video of it because I think it's a concern. And one of the reasons, like I said at the beginning of the video, one of the reasons, see, all these homes are new. Not born, but built 67, 68 and forward, because it was nothing but fields here. So that makes me suspect that maybe in one of the study on one of the internet pages that was talking about this particular place being built on contaminated land, maybe this is the place they're talking about. I'm not sure. I'm going to do more research on that, but I would be willing to bet that maybe there's some issues here. And like I said, I don't know I know it was a mother that was sick of, but I have to get the names because it's been a long time. But like, we're back on Diamonddale again, and the refinery is right there. If I had access to my house, well, it's not my house anymore, but if I had access to where I used to live, we go upstairs, you can see it right from there. And then if it was in the evening time, you would see the flame that I'm talking about that's always ongoing. And I'm pretty sure it's probably still always ongoing because they haven't shut down the refinery. So these are some of the issues, because I know fracking is the big thing, and fracking is very important. But I think we don't need to sleep on this emissions, because that's affecting children. And most of these, it's a lot of kids in here that go to school, so this is affecting children. And then I'm gonna go by the junior high school too. So that's the house that I grew up in, right there, 1618 Diamonddale. Okay, and like I said, Miss Henderson passed away from cancer. My stepfather passed away from cancer. There's a Miss Jones that lives on this street. I'm not on Harlan. This is Harlan, because I have a friend, Jarvis Henderson, whose mom I was speaking of. He's still in touch with Miss Jones, and she's either in remission or fighting cancer right now. She's right around the corner here. And it's just all these people close together. And those are only ones I know. I'm sure if I start talking to more people, I'm sure it would be higher. But like I said, I'm not a scientist, but I think it definitely is worthy of someone looking into it and speaking on that issue, which is very important. It affects, and in this particular book I was referring to, it says poor and people of color. But these people aren't going to consider themselves poor, of course. Although, you know, that's debatable. But anyway, this is more of a middle class, or it looks like a middle class, or they like to be considered middle class, so we'll call them middle class. But this is an area, but it is people of color here. Mostly black and brown live in this area, if I'm not mistaken. So, and that's pretty much the history of Carson. Okay, here's a park here. Refinery is right around the corner. Refinery is right around the corner. This is Cyrene. We're still on Cyrene. This is a little park here. The refinery is 1 block away. So you have kids in the park. What kind of emissions are affecting? So that's why it needs to be spoken about. What emissions and what's under here? What's under this land here? If the houses in this area were built on contaminated land and this park is sitting here, when the kids play in the sand, is there an issue? Is there an issue? So that's very important, I think. And I don't have small children, but that doesn't have anything to do with me having small children. I know people that have small children, and it's important. So this is a park. So, and right around the corner is that refinery. Okay. Refinery, right around the corner. You can see it from here, parts of it. Okay, this is Curtis Junior High School. Curtis Junior High School. We're on Central now. It's Curtis Junior High School we're getting ready to come to. Refinery, Junior High School. Refinery, Junior High School. So, I think there's something to be said about it. I think there's something to be said about it. It's not enough said about it in my opinion. But like I said, some people in Carson, going by what my school buddy told me, some people in Carson are making some noise about this contamination issue and this emissions issue, but not enough. Okay, refinery, school. Okay, this is Curtis Junior High School. Refinery is a couple of blocks away. Okay. I'm not sure how old Curtis Junior High is. When I moved here, I was in elementary school, but by the time I came in here, Curtis was here. So I don't know how much older this area is. It may be around the same age, same proximity as over there where I grew up. But this is Curtis Junior High School, and right around the corner from it is a refinery. So health issues at Curtis Junior High, I don't know. I haven't done the research. But I just think it's something that needs to be addressed. I really do. I think it's, and that's one of the reasons I'm supporting Luis Rodriguez. I brought this up to him, that I thought that this is something that people need to, because when you involve people's children, you take it to a whole nother level. Fracking is very important. It really is. But emissions, you know, that's, you know, this is from 1922 to now. That's almost 100 years. And I'm not good in math, but 70 or 80 years that emissions, that you know something has been going on, for sure. For sure. And that's before we had these more stringent laws. It's not stringent enough, but can you imagine in 1968 when we moved here? Can you imagine in the 70s when nobody was making a big noise about that? So I think it's really imperative that we. So I'm gonna go. This is Del Amo. Here's the factory over here. We just left Curtis Junior High School. Here's the factory right here. The mall is right up the street. There's some little businesses here. And not even just the kids being affected, but what about all these workers here in this industrial center right here? What about them? What are they being exposed to being that close to that refinery? You know, there's something to be said. It's something that we need to look into. So, okay, I'm going across the street now into the Carson Industrial Center. So I'm wondering who, and having no idea. And I could be completely wrong. It may not have anything to do with, okay, here, industrial center right here. In fact, this is where I learned how to drive. All this area over here, a lot of us learned how to drive over here because this was like barren some years ago. So this is where we learned how to drive, not knowing that we're by this thing and we don't know what's going into our system. So here's the refinery right here. What is under this land? That's my question. What is under this land? And I think people in politics who are really concerned, like Luis Rodriguez, I think I know he's really concerned. They should be addressing that issue. That's a 70 or 80 year issue that needs to be addressed. Who of these people that work here have been working here for years and they become sick all of a sudden? Does it have something to do with this? If it doesn't, then prove that it doesn't. But if it does, then that's an issue. We need to be more stringent on these people and not just assume just because it creates some jobs. You know, it's creating jobs, but it may actually be creating some health issues too. That won't allow people to make retirement. So that's very crucial. So I just wanted to put that on video, and I'm going to do more research about it. I'm going to talk to more people who either live in Carson, have lived in Carson, or formerly, you know, have relatives that are still in Carson. I still want to talk to a lot of people and just see what their take is on it. And I actually would like to make contact with the group who is making some noise, because like I said, one of my school buddies told me that they are making some noise. It's more about the fracking, which is important, than the emissions. But at least they're making noise about it. They are making some noise about it. I'm not sure how successful they are, because, you know, usually it starts with small pockets of people, and you're going up against Shell or a big refinery or a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and you know, they try to bury you in the sand. So with their lawyers and people that know how to get out of situations. So that's my take on it. That's my video. Like I said, I left Carson in 1980, but when I started reading this book, the first thing that came to mind was Carson, because that's a part of my past. So that was the first thing that came to mind was, I wonder if Carson has an emissions problem, which it probably does. I'm not scientific by any means, but I'm pretty sure I'd be willing to bet that it has an emissions problem. Now, how bad that emissions problem is, I don't know. So I hope this made some people think. I hope that if whoever you're representing, whoever it is that you want to see in office, is speaking to these kind of issues, because it's very important. Because it's not just Carson, it's any area near refineries, any areas that are doing fracking or any of that. But because like I said, this book kind of drew some interest for me because it mentioned this city. I thought it was really interesting. We have all these kids living in this area. It's right up the street. We ignore the smell that we smell for years because it's just part of being in Carson. I don't smell the smell as much, so they worked on that part. But I'm wondering what we're drinking. People that live here, because here's the mall right here. It used to be called the Carson Mall. I'm not sure what it's called now, Southwest Plaza or something. But it used to be called Carson Mall. Stores right here, right up the street from the refinery. So we'll go in here. So we have stores here. It used to be a boys market here. It's not a boys market, but it doesn't matter. It's stores. So all this land I'm wondering who's being affected, or if anyone is being affected, or how much they're being affected by emissions here in Carson, California. So, like I said, my name is Jeffrey Martin. Wanted to put it on video, and just food for thought. Food for thought. Disagree, agree, whatever. It's not about that. It's about making sure that the people who are causing or have caused health issues, making sure that they do the right thing by the people that live in those communities. Because the people that own those refineries, they don't live there. They may have employees that live in Carson, but they don't live there. So it's not their concern. And like the book was referring to, that it's usually poor people, people of color, and usually better off people, higher class as far as monetary, don't live in these areas. They don't live as close by. So we're still in Carson, we're going up Avalon. Still not that far from the refinery. There's a golf course here, or it was, I'm not sure. Yeah, still a golf course here. There's Victoria Park up the street a little ways. So this isn't a long, none of these places are a long ways from the refinery. These are older Carson homes, but this is still Carson. But these are a little bit older. But it's still close enough. I mean, that's not even a mile probably. So they're still really, really close. So this is a golf course here. Victoria Park is up the street, unless they've moved the park since I've been here. I'm not sure. We're coming upon 192nd Street. Victoria Park is to the left up here in a little ways, or back over there. Back over there. It's been a long time, so thank you. I hope this, like I said, at least brings up discussion. At least people will start thinking about, maybe in whatever area you live in, whether it's the Valley, somewhere else in Los Angeles, we need to be up on that. Especially our representatives, people that are supposed to represent us, should be speaking to these issues. This is almost 100-year issue, and not too much has been done about it. So I'm done. Thank you a lot, and take care.